Singing Dutchman Productions. Hello and welcome to Doug's Front Porch, a podcast where I get to sit down with friends, old and new, and have honest conversations. Today I welcome Chelsea Grieb onto the front porch, a newer friend, but also a colleague, and we'll get into that later on in our conversation. But first, Chelsea, welcome to the front porch.
Well, thanks, Doug. Thanks for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad that you agreed to do this. I can't wait to get into the conversation that I have planned with you. But I always like to start every episode the same way so that our audience gets to know you a little bit or get a little bit about background. So I always ask this question. Tell us about young little Chelsea. What kind of kid were you like? Did you have brothers and sisters? Were you a sports kid? Were you a music kid? What was that era of your life like?
All right. So, young me, I was born and raised in Belfont and currently live there with my husband. I had a twin sister, or I have a twin sister, who also works for Keystone Central School District. And then I have an older sister as well, who's local, lives like in Center Hall area. Growing up, it was pretty simple. My mom didn't work. My dad worked for the electric company. And we just enjoyed our outside time. We weren't very much big into vacations, and we just enjoyed each other and being at home. We lived on 11 acres, so we actually sold sweet corn for our school clothes money. So just very rural. Just had a good time biking. We did rails to trails. Um,
Did
Rode.
you play any sports in school?
Ugh, I tried. That was definitely my twins thing. I tried softball. I experimented with like baton twirling, which didn't go well. But I did do cheer. So I cheered through high school. But of course that ended there.
So I think you're my first guest actually that is a twin or has a twin. So and I have no experience with that because I don't have a twin. So it always interests me or fascinates me. What was that like having, because you and your sister look, I mean, for people that know you know that you and your sister look so similar. But what was that like growing up? Did you always feel, I guess this is my perspective, like looking into it. Did you feel like you were always in each other's shadow, or could you, since you were identical twins, could you forge your own identity? I mean, maybe these are naive questions for me to ask, but I'm curious.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And we get asked that all the time. So we're actually fraternal twins, but we just look crazy alike and we sound alike too.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought you were identical twins. Okay, boy.
we're not. Yeah,
Okay.
it's crazy, but we had the best relationship and we still do. We are each other's best friends, each other's cheerleaders. And I think that was how our parents raised us in the sense that they knew, yes, we were twins, but that wasn't our identity. They tried to raise us as very much individuals. And if Ashley wanted to do the softball and hunting thing, and I wanted to do the cheer thing and girly stuff, they let us. So then it wasn't really a competition, that we were just there to support each other. I mean, when she got her first year, I was there. When she won the softball state championship, I was there, and vice versa. I mean, she was there then for my successes, and then we were each other's cheerleaders and not competitors. So we had a really great relationship, and we still do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's evident knowing both of you. I can see that. But that's something I always wondered about twins, because I know I've had some twins in class over the years where they were each other. And it was difficult to find them being individuals. It was always the group, like the two of them. And I was just curious how that was with you and Ashley. But okay, that answers one question I had for you. All
Yeah.
right. So throughout high school, you go to Belfont, you graduate, and then you decide to go on. And what do you decide to study?
Yeah, so I went to Lock Haven, Clearfield campus at the time to study nursing. They had an associate's program there that wasn't at main campus. So I went to Clearfield. And so, of course, finished that in 2 years. I was an RN by the age of 20, and then went and did my bachelor's degree through Lock Haven as well, just while I worked. So,
Okay, so my first question, when did you realize that nursing was something you wanted to pursue?
That was from first grade.
What?
Yeah, I'm serious. Now, my reasoning has changed. In first grade, I dressed up as a nurse for Halloween and thought it was the coolest thing. But then, as I've learned and had some experiences with family members being sick, I watched my great grandfather pass away at the Renova like Bucktail Center. But the nurses were fantastic, and they knew that, oh, Lester gets a black cup of coffee at 2 o'clock. And it was those little things that made a difference, and that I picked up on, and I knew I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that stuck with you then, and that you never wavered from that.
Never, never. And it's funny too, because a lot of people say explore your options. And I even only applied to one school too. I didn't apply to many colleges, so thankful that I got in.
And then once you started in that program of study and you started to do more hands-on, did that just cement your love for it? Or were there times when you were like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this, or well, this isn't what I thought it was going to be? Did you ever have any of those moments?
I did, but not so much with the hands-on. It was more the book work that opened my eyes of, you know, I was a straight A student in high school and I'm getting B's and C's and tests were hard, but the clinical of it, I knew, no, I still love this. I still want to be around people and help people. It was the book work. So I really had to buckle down and kind of change some things. So to kind of answer or to go back to that question, really it was just the clinical setting definitely cemented it. Like I knew I wasn't going to change, but I did have those moments of, ooh, can I do this?
So you graduated with you're an RN, and then did you spend time in a hospital setting, or were you in a different kind of setting?
I did. I worked at Mount Denny Medical Center in State College from 2013 to about 2017, but then switched to an outpatient setting. I knew I was getting married. Kids were hopefully in our future. So I switched to a doctor's office setting that had more consistent hours and no holidays. That was the big thing.
So, I mean, that was a big part of your foundation. So you said from first grade already, this was, you knew nursing is what you want to do. Then you grew up and you lived your dream. You became a nurse. Were you still a nurse during COVID, or had you made the career switch yet?
No, I was still doing that and running like a drive-through testing clinic but yet my hours were cut because when COVID really hit, they were canceling appointments, surgeries, and so even my hours were actually cut until like the big wave came to our county. Um, but yeah, I switched the career in 2020, that August. So it was kind of mid-COVID, but definitely I felt the burnout and the frustration of healthcare changes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because I wasn't sure when you made the career change, which we're going to talk about here in a couple minutes. But when I first started this podcast, it was in 2020. And one of my first guests in those first couple months was a dear friend of mine who's an RN at works out in the greater Pittsburgh area. And she's actually in a hospital setting. She's been for 20 plus years. And it was in the throngs of COVID, and she was talking about just what the nurses were going through, just the nurses alone dealing with the hospitalization of all these COVID patients and burnout, and that was in the early parts of COVID. So I was always, anytime I talk to somebody that I know is in the medical field that survived the pandemic or worked through the pandemic, I'm always curious to see like what was your reaction? Because I mean, now you were in it for a little bit, like you said, was when that was going on, was that, I mean, I know the answer to the question is no, but were you prepared for that?
No, no, I don't think anyone could be. And, and the health system really wasn't. And again, this is nothing for Mount Ninny. This was all health systems that experienced it. I mean, where were we going to get our supplies? Do we have enough testing kits? And how do we tell people, no, we can't see you? Yeah.
So how tough was it getting up and going to work during that time period?
Oh, it was tough. It was emotional, and fearful because I didn't want to bring anything home to my 1.5-year old. My husband works in the prison, and COVID was obviously there too, and very isolated. So we knew we could get sick at any time. So it was just fearful, which I think everyone felt.
Yeah. Yeah, no, right. I think every career had that feeling, I'm sure, or the vast majority of careers during that time period. But I mean, you were frontline. We talk about those frontline workers from that era, and I can't imagine getting up and having to face that every day. During that time period. But you did eventually transition, and that's what we want to. I have a lot of questions about this, so we're going to tell everybody because we're colleagues now, and you're not a practicing nurse full time like you used to be. So eventually, you made the choice to switch to teaching. So let's talk about that. How did that come about?
So that was something that was in my mind for a while. But truthfully, I always thought it had to be at a collegiate level. And I always thought, okay, if I'm going to instruct nursing, I'm going to have to get my doctorate and become a professor. But that was in my mind. And I was taking a walk with my sister, my twin sister, pushing the stroller with my little one. And she goes, and she knew I was burnt out with COVID. And we're taking a walk, and she said, we have an opening at our high school for like the career and tech center side. I mean, I applied within a day and, got the interview, Zoom style, of course, because of COVID. And it was offered to me the very next day, I think.
Okay, so here's a bajillion questions now to follow all of this up. Okay, so very serendipitously, you go on this walk, you have this conversation with your sister. Oh my God, there's a position opening. And just so people listening understand, at the school district where we teach, we do have our own CTC program. I've had guests on the show before that have taught other classes in our CTC program, but we haven't. What's the official title? Health Occupations? Is that the official title of the program?
Technically, health assisting, but yeah, everyone I feel like just still knows it as health occupations.
So, for someone that isn't aware of these types of programs that are in our VOTEC schools throughout the country, how do you explain to somebody what is a kid that comes into the health occupations or the new title, whatever it is right now, that what are they being taught? I mean, so they start as a freshman, and I know that it's like a million things that you teach them, but ideally, when they get done, if they stay with the program for 4 years and they graduate, what path can that put them on for post high school?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And there's different pathways even within the program. We have had students successfully complete an EMT program that not necessarily is through me, but we have a tie with Lock Haven EMS. And because of their training in school, the CPR, the anatomy, they do very well in the EMT program. We also have a partnership for nurse assisting at the Lock Haven facility down the road, UPMC, that will train them to be nurse assistants. Because that's something I actually can't teach. That's not so much from Department of Ed, that's Department of Health in the nursing world. I can't be a nursing assistant instructor because I actually never worked in a nursing home. So I can't instruct it. So we had to get creative, and we looked into patient care technician. So that's been up and running now for 2 years, where students can, do solidify their training and do even more. I mean, EKGs, phlebotomy, of course, still the anatomy and CPR and first aid kind of things, and then sit for their national exam, either their junior or senior year. And then that can open doors where they can practice at a local emergency room. Jersey Shore has been a huge one for us, or a doctor's office hires patient care technicians, and they're ready to just enter the workforce right off the bat.
Yeah, and then we also have many kids that'll then go on into nursing programs post high school, and or you've at least given them that foundation. So I got to rewind a little bit. So you go for this walk, you get this idea in your head, you apply, and you get the job all within a really fast amount of time or a short amount of time. Before stepping foot into the actual classroom, when you became Mrs. Grieb teacher instead of Mrs. Grieb nurse, what was going through your head? Like, were you thinking? Because you didn't have the education background. The only education background you had was you were a kid in a high school when you were younger. That was your vision of teaching. And then you entered the professional world of nursing for quite a number of years. Now you're coming back into a high school setting as a teacher. What was going through your head in that whole process leading up to like that first day of school?
A lot. Gosh, I don't even know where to start. I knew I was capable of teaching in the sense that I've been doing this stuff for years, right? 7 years at that point. And I knew, okay, I do this every day. I can teach how to do vital signs. I can teach EKGs, bring it on. But in the sense of, oh, these are adolescents. I have no idea how to interact with these people. That's what scared me the most of how do I even interact with them? I don't even know what my first opening sentence would be on the first day of school. It was just those things that I didn't know about the interaction.
And as you started that first year, what things about the world of public education just completely opened your eyes?
Oh, well, I guess a lot of the extra stuff.
Okay.
And people can't see my air quotes right now, but I was set to teach nursing and that's what I'm doing. But then came, the special education and IEPs. And then came the write-ups and disciplinary referrals. And then you have to take this survey to see how your students are doing mentally. And it was just, added and added and added. And then I'm thinking, okay, when do I teach then? Because it was just more and more that I didn't really remember growing up in high school, our teachers doing all the extras. But in a kid's perspective, I guess I wouldn't. I was just there and I learned and I
Yeah.
left.
Well, and in all honesty, in 24 years of teaching for myself, I can say that a lot of that has changed from when I was a young teacher. I mean, we are being asked to do way more than we ever had to do in our careers of the extra stuff. And I'm not going to use air quotes because it's real. It's extra stuff that we're being asked to do. But you're in that job for the first year there, and you're swimming through the water trying to figure out how do you teach a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old how to do X, Y, and Z? You have your list of all the things that you want to accomplish throughout the year. What was what was it like getting used to working with teenagers at first? Did you find that to be an easy transition coming from working with adult patients in the healthcare setting? Or was it different in some way?
Yeah, same and different. I do have to back up and kind of laugh because you said you were swimming. I was not. I was actually drowning, actually.
Well, most of us do the first 2, 3 years, trust me.
Wow, I remember lots of tears. I was probably drowning just in my own tears. But no, the interaction did come very naturally, actually. And I think for my students, they pick to be there. So they sign up for the CTE course, so they want to learn and they wanted me to share my knowledge and my stories. So I think that makes a big difference. Let alone then once I had their trust, they were asking me questions, personal questions, even, family questions of, well, hey, my grandma had this. And then you build that trust and you can't give medical advice, but I was there for them and at least a listening ear. And I think then that kind of transferred through year after year of students saying like, oh yeah, Mrs. Grieb is nice. Mrs. Grieb is trustworthy. And I think then when people found out that I wasn't so bad at, and that just, like the telephone effect that people knew. And I don't know, I think the relationships came then naturally.
Looking back on it now, you've been teaching now for what is this going into your 6 year, seventh, fifth,
Yeah.
6 year, something like that?
Six.
Okay, so
Yeah.
having done it now for a couple of years, looking back, what skills from nursing helped you be a good teacher?
It's a great question. And I think really it was actually teaching patience. So I think a lot of people kind of miss that side of nursing that, oh, they pass meds, they do this, they change dressings. But a lot of what I did was patient education, whether it was new diabetes, how to take new medications at home, how to take care of their dressing at home. And I think that just kind of came over because when I had to teach patients that, they were clueless. I was teaching them from, stage one to the end, where that's what the students needed. They're clueless in this. They're high schoolers that have no idea how the body works, or, first aid measures. And I think that helped of just starting at the basics and then being able to grow from it. Once when they understand something, then you can kind of dive in deeper.
Now that you've been a teacher for these years, if you were talking to other nurses, what skills from the classroom have you learned that would transition or would be really helpful and beneficial in the nursing world?
Yeah, and I thought I knew time management at the hospital. People had deadlines, you had to have meds passed by a certain time, your assessments in. But I think time management changed completely in the high school of, whether it's the little opening things of, okay, take attendance, do their bell ringer, start them on this lesson. And I just think my time management skills have flourished. And I have even found um, I'm for the first time this summer going back and I've been working 3 days a week at Mount Nittany. And it's kind of fun to go back and be like, oh, I no, I'm not stressed. I can just I know what I need to prioritize. So if anything, I think it just resurfaced.
It's crazy to think about. Which job's more stressful, being a high school teacher or a nurse?
Like,
And I think most Americans would say, "Oh, it's got to be a nurse, right?" And it's like, well, I don't
uh,
know.
correct, correct. My viewpoint has changed as well.
So I'm going to ask you a professional question from one teacher to another. How you're dealing with some really heavy topics in your classes, especially as the kids get older and you're getting into more difficult and harder things. How do you approach getting that information across to kids that are really struggling to grasp it or to understand it? What is in your toolbox right now that you're using that you have found successful when working with kids that are really struggling?
Yeah, I it took me some time. It took like 3 years, to kind of realize that, oh, I can give an assignment to everyone. That way I can pull some kids, and students in to really give them that one-on-one. Um, it- I think in our classroom, and I think students would tell you this too, we have like all these mini whiteboards and we constantly just draw. I go to the cardio unit, the heart, and they just draw. And this side is blue because it receives oxygenated, and this side is red because and they're drawing the valves and the pathway, and we just draw. And I think that helps. But honestly, I just kind of have to learn the students just like everyone and try to find like what clicks for them. Sometimes it's YouTube videos that I've had to find. But just like anyone, I think it's really just learning the students and how they learn, whether it's visual or auditory, whatever it might be.
Have you ever had the situation where, you're trying to prepare kids for a future in healthcare, post high school? Have you ever had students in your program where after working with them, you realize that this is not the right career path for you? And if
Yeah.
you have, how do you have those conversations with those kids?
Yes, I've had to have some hard conversations where, students then had to drop the course, whether it was failing, not obtaining like their industry certifications, whatever it might be. And I've had to have some difficult conversations, but it's never me. I always get admin in. Sometimes like our co-op coordinator will come in to say like, well, you won't even be able to enter the workforce, in high school unless you get this, this, and this. So that kind of helps solidify and helps explain some things. But it, sometimes hard conversations are to be had. I mean,
Thank
you
you.
you
Yes.
you want them to be successful. You don't want to lead them astray, so you might as well have that conversation firsthand. And yeah, it's hard,
Yeah.
but I think they'll thank you later. I hope.
Yeah, yeah. Eventually, for sure. You brought up a hot button word right now in public ed that I think a lot of people listening to this podcast that aren't involved in education might not really be aware of, and that's co-op. So through your program and through all of our VOTEC programs at Keystone Central, the students that are involved in these programs have co-op opportunities. So the kids that are in your program, explain really quickly, briefly, what is co-op and what does that look like for a kid that's in your program, or what can it look like for a kid in your program?
Sure. So cooperative education is really solidifying what they learned in the classroom and getting them out into the workforce. So, in the sense of health, we've had students that worked for Lock Haven EMS where they're in my classroom Mondays and Fridays, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're working and actually doing the thing. We've had students at Jersey Shore, Eagle Ridge Personal Care, just kind of depends which path they wanted to go. You know, a hospital setting, doctor's office, emergency medicine. But again, they're in the classroom part-time and then working part-time just to help kind of bring to life, oh, hey, I learned this. Now I'm doing it.
And who sets all that up? So if a kid says, oh, I want to get on an ambulance crew, I want to start doing that and again, these are for our older kids, juniors and seniors usually is when kids are doing the co-op. How does that all come about?
Right. So usually they talk to me and I say, "Great, let me send you to Daisy Killinger, who's our co-op coordinator, and she has packets of paper. I have to sign off saying, yes, they completed, 75% of, the curriculum that they're able to leave since they're, in only in the classroom part-time. So I have to sign off, guidance counselors have to sign off. Like there's an approval process so they know these kids can maintain schoolwork and work because I've seen that too, where students then fall behind and then we have to pull them from co-op because they're struggling with handling both, which rightfully so. That comes with time and age and knowing time management skills.
Yeah. So I'll say this to the audience, and I know firsthand that Chelsea's program is extremely popular at our school right now. She grew a program so much that we had to hire another health OC teacher. At one point, Chelsea, you had, what was that one class that you had? There was like 37, 38 kids in there, or maybe
Yeah.
more. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Because dirty secret, everybody, every now and then I like to pop into Chelsea's classroom and say hi and walk around and bug some of her kids because she usually we share kids sometimes depending on who the students are. And I will say from my perspective as someone that has been in education as long as I have, I always get a good feeling when I walk into your classroom, whether I get a smile on my face or I know walking into that door or walking through that door that this is going to be a good couple of minutes while I'm in here. How do you think you've created that environment that makes me, someone that's not a student in your classroom and really only sees you a couple minutes a day, feel good about myself?
Um, well, gosh, thanks. That's such a lovely compliment. I just hope that everyone knows that, like, I just have this very open door, welcoming kind of policy. And let alone the students know that, yes, the curriculum that I teach, whatever, that's important. I'm trying to teach them how to care, be kind, be welcoming individuals themselves, because quite frankly, that's healthcare and that's what's needed. And so I think not even secretly, that's truly what I'm trying to teach them above all else. So I think when people do come into the classroom, they feel that and they feel that warmth. They feel the students wanting to learn and they probably hear tons of questions being asked because Lord, they do ask a lot of questions, but they feel safe. Like that's their safe environment and they can.
What you're doing is working, and it's working really, really well. And I wanted to give you those compliments, and not just to give them to you, but to truly to say them because I mean them. I've seen firsthand what you've done with that program, and where you will be, and where you're going to take it. I mean, we can't see the future, but I only see continued growth. Of course, it helps that the healthcare field is something that we need a lot of people in right now. So it's offering opportunities for kids to get great paying jobs right out of high school that'll, set them on the path to success, I would think, for themselves. And I just wanted to pay you those compliments because it's true. I see it firsthand. I talk to your students outside of your classroom, and I know what's going on over there in your room. I hear it from kids, and I can see the success that's happening. So I wanted to thank you for everything that you've done for our school and for that program because you are creating better people out of that. And that the kids that go into your classroom are walking out better people. And in my mind as a teacher, that's my number one goal too. Yes, I want them to speak German. That's great. But if they're going to be fluent, my greater concern is that are they going to be a better person coming out of my room that's going to be a better member of society? And I see that happening in your classroom. On top of them also being able to take my blood pressure and tell me about I should cut back on the amount of salt and sugar that I'm eating in my diet. So all those things are happening all at once. So kudos to you, Chelsea, for doing the job that you're doing. It's great. You're doing an awesome job. And I wanted to say that to you digitally face to face.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. Since I've made this career switch, it has been so rewarding, and I do love seeing those aha moments and students kind of turning the table because we know we've had rough students that have rough home lives, but gosh, when you can make that difference, that's a thank you in itself.
Yeah, it truly is. You're right. You're absolutely right. Well, Chelsea, I'm done talking shop with you. We close every episode out with 10 quick questions to get to know Chelsea a little bit better. And I know you a little bit, but I don't know you well enough because I'm to think about what you might say for your answers for these questions. So I'm really curious and excited to hear your answers. So here we go. Question number one. What is your morning drink of choice?
Water?
Okay. Are you a coffee drinker at all?
No.
Hot tea? No hot
Um,
drinks in the morning?
no, no. On a rare occasion, if I go to Dunkin', I'll splurge and get a chai tea. But no, I'm just a water drinker.
Have you always been that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I used to drink iced tea. My mom always had iced tea growing up, but now I just water.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. That's good. That's good. Okay. Number two. Who is a go-to musical artist or group for you?
Um, gosh, this brings out my countryside a lot,
That's nothing wrong with that. That's
but I enjoy Morgan Wallen a lot. I think he's a great artist and very talented.
so you've had a rough day at school, you get in the car for the drive home, and that's what you're putting on.
Putting on Morgan Wallen,
All
yeah.
right. Yeah, that's good. No, it sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Question number three. What movie can you watch over and over again and it never gets old?
Remember the Titans.
Oh, good choice. Good choice. All right. Number four. What is the last thing that you read?
Ooh, I just finished actually A Forgery of Roses.
Okay. Is that a fiction, a work of fiction?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, definitely, definitely fiction. And I just got it through like this Belfont Reads program for free, and it was not my kind of style, like witch kind of artistry kind of stuff, but I'll tell you what, it was really good.
Okay. So I do have a follow-up question. Given so now that you're not well, you did say that you're still working 3 days a week now as a nurse in the summer during our summer break, but throughout the school year, when you're not in the health field like on a day-to-day basis, how do you stay fresh with the new things that are happening in healthcare? Because you have to prepare those kids for that, but you're not in that daily grind anymore. How do you keep fresh?
Right, that's a good question. So, I get Mayo Clinic journals sent to me monthly with different just updates for medications, different diseases, different treatments. And then, let alone for my RN license, you have to get 30 continuing ed credits. So, I really do try to, whether it's, an online training or a magazine, something just to kind of keep up with my skills.
Sure.
And
Okay. I was curious about that. Okay. Number five. What is your favorite pizza topping?
probably just pepperoni.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not adventurous when it comes to pizza toppings.
I'm not. I
Are
mean,
you an adventurous eater?
yes, I
Okay.
I think I am. Maybe to some people I wouldn't be, but my husband and I we always say we're foodies. We
Uh,
always like to try new things and
Good.
new recipes. So I think I am.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Number six. Laying on the beach or going for a hike?
Ooh, going for a hike.
Are you a beach person at all?
Yes, we went last year with the kids, but then before that, it might have been 5 years since I've gone to the beach. We're just very much nature. We just hiked the Grand Canyon just
Hmm.
last weekend. I think that's where I just feel more close just to my
Yeah.
family and nature and God and yeah,
I
so a
got you.
hike for sure.
Okay. Number seven. You have invited me over for dinner. What are you making?
Oh my goodness. I'm making Swedish meatballs
Mm.
with egg noodles. And then for a dessert, because again, foodies, we always have dessert here at our house. We just call it a cheese croissant. So like a cream cheese and
Mm.
cinnamon sugar kind of thing.
That sounds lovely. That whole menu
Yeah.
sounds lovely. Okay, good. Number eight. What is a dream vacation destination for you?
Alaska.
Mm.
I visited once with a friend who was in the Air Force. but I really only had to stay on base and kind of scope around there. But I would love to visit Alaska and really see the nature of it.
Yeah, that's high on my list too.
Yeah.
Someday, someday, someday. All right, number 9. What's something you're afraid of?
Oh, something I'm afraid of. I think now that I have kids, I'm afraid of them getting hurt or sick.
Okay. And
I think
being a
that's my
nurse, that's probably
biggest
tough because you've seen stuff like, and you've
fear.
experienced stuff. Like,
Right? Like I know a little bit too much that, but yet not enough that I try not to be that mom that's like, you gotta go to the doctor. Like I'm usually one that says, no, you have to wait like a week with that cold. That's
yeah,
the nurse in me. But yet, like my son right now is dealing with a lymph node issue and he had to have an ultrasound and me knowing too much, I'm like, oh my gosh, like
yeah.
what's happening?
What?
So yeah, it's a love-hate relationship with the knowledge I have.
All right, last question. So you've had two different jobs, two very different jobs in your life. But I asked this question to everybody: what job, other than one that you've had, would you love to have?
Oh, um, if it wasn't so risky, I would own my own bakery. We always say if we win the lottery, which we don't even play,
Yeah.
but and like there was no risk involved, I would just open up a bakery
Are
and
we talking just breads, or are we talking like cakes and cookies and
no
pies?
everything, cakes.
Everything.
Yes. Yeah, that is such a hobby of mine. I love
Oh,
to
that's
be in the
awesome.
kitchen and bake but more importantly, I love giving it away. At
Uh-huh.
Christmas time, like I'm just like the cookie lady that's like sending it into my husband's work and school and my kids' teachers. So, yeah, I think that would be my dream job.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good dream job to have. Yeah, awesome. Chelsea, I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy summer to record this with me. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you a little bit better and getting to pick your brain on a couple things that I've always wanted to ask you and just never had the right opportunity to ask you. And again, thank you for what you do. Anybody that's in the public ed career field, I should say, I want to say thank you for what you do, but you especially because of you're not just in the classroom, and I don't want to take anything away from like math teachers or English teachers teaching these subjects, but you're hands-on. You're teaching kids how to put needles in people's arms and how to, I mean, you're teaching stuff that has some real consequences if the kids mess
Mhm.
up. So I just want to thank you for what you're doing. You're doing an awesome job, and I know you're going to continue doing an awesome job. And I'm glad to be able to call you a colleague and a friend.
Well, thank you, Doug. This was fun, and you've been a great mentor. I know we don't see each other much in the hallways, but I know the impact you make on students, and even from year one, when they're like, "Oh, well, find a teacher in the school that's like going to be who you look up to." I think Mike Kramer, Mr. Ryan, like you're just solid teachers that again, go outside of the classroom and look more at like relationships and making a difference. So
Well,
thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We will see each other soon when the school year starts, Chelsea. But until then, find some time to relax, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Doug's Front Porch, a conversational podcast with your host, Doug Maidenford. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Your ratings and reviews will help others find the show. You can follow along on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Just look for Doug's Front Porch. If you would like to financially support our endeavors, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. I thank you in advance for any contributions. Please feel free to tell all your friends about the show, and I'll see you all next time on my front porch.